Welcome to Faith, Fiction, and Folklore, where we try not to F things up. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about healing. Can you heal, or is it God? Do you believe that God heals in whatever way he wants to, or do you believe that he gave us that power to do so? And so today I'm going to talk about that with Gary. How are you?
I'm sweet, man. How are you?
And Cody. How are you?
I'm great, man. Having a good time.
Awesome. Heck
I
yeah.
like talking with you fellas.
Yeah, I love talking to you too.
I like talking to y'all too. So there, now that we've all bonded. So
We're bonded.
yeah.
So what you got, Trevor?
Yeah, what's up, man?
So I've been watching, listening to a lot of faith healing videos here lately, mostly from Todd White and Dan Moeller. I don't know if you've heard of either one of them. But there's just a couple preachers and pastors. Well, Dan Moeller doesn't claim to be a pastor. He just likes talking about Jesus. And lots of churches ask him, "Hey, come talk at our church, please." And he spends all his time traveling on the weekends, and he talks about the love of Jesus and faith, and that he's a believer. He just believes. He believes what Jesus said, and and he talks about healing people, just going into Walmart and um, he has stories of just walking up to random people and healing them of whatever, and it's very interesting. So
Ooh, what methods?
he just walks up to him and says, "Hey, can I pray for you?" Like he's got one where he went to Subway. This is his story, Dan Muller. He went to Subway and the girl behind the counter was just making a sandwich, and he got like a word from God or whatever that her neck was messed up. So he was like, "Hey, can I pray for your neck real quick?" And the girl was like, "Sure." Freaked out, that would
Yeah.
freak anybody out. And um, so he took her hand and he was like, "In Jesus' name, I ask that, you're healed from your neck pain."
Yeah.
And the girl started crying and bawling because she could finally turn her neck after 2 years of not being able to move her neck properly.
Yeah.
And it's stories like that. And so I just wanted to get you guys' opinion. When Jesus went up into heaven, right before he went up into heaven, he told the apostles, "Hey, go out and do the things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have faith, you'll be able to do these things and greater things." And one of those things was healing
Mm-hmm.
and casting out demons and whatnot. And so my question is, do you think we can, that was for just the apostles, or was that for all of us?
What's your opinion?
My opinion is I'd like it to be for all of us. And personally, I've been trying to put it into practice. But Dan Muller talks about it's not about what you can do for God or for others. It's, do you have the faith to believe that it will happen?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's, I'm still learning on like how it all works and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering what y'all's opinion was on it.
Gary, you want to go?
Sure. Before I
I've got a
go, I
mouthful.
want to start off because I've got his picture pulled up. So that's Dan Moeller. He's healing, got a healing ministry. Now,
Yeah.
as to my opinion, I figured if the Almighty wants me to heal somebody, he'll tell me.
Yeah.
That's about, I don't really have it's not something I've like consciously looked for or whatever. I did go to college at ORU, and so, yeah.
For those that don't know, what is ORU?
Oral Roberts University used to have Oral Roberts used to have tent revivals, and there's one thing you gotta be careful about the neck one. The neck one's an old trope because what they used to do in the tents is they'd have those guys with the braces. There's so many people with neck braces in those tent revivals. And so,
Right, yeah.
Oral Roberts would be like, "Come over here, you're gonna be healed," and then he'd rip the neck brace off, and they're like, "Oh, I feel so much better," because it was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had quite the reputation for a while until he made some kind of, back after the university was built, he made some kind of prediction, but it didn't come true. I don't remember what I think, oh, wait a minute. I think it was something ridiculous. I need to Google this because I need to get it right. But I remember, because when you go to school at ORU, they make you read some of his stuff. So let's see if I can pull this story up right. University die. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So this is... I'm probably going to lose my degree because I'm even bringing this up. But...
Uh-oh.
Let's do a
We don't
little
want to-
pretext. Oral Roberts is a prosperity preacher.
Yeah, he was a prosperity gospel guy. But he didn't start out that way. He started out with the Pentecostal tent healing tradition thing.
Then you realized it didn't make any money.
Well, in 1986, evangelist Oral Roberts predicted that he would die by the end of the year if he didn't raise $8 million.
Oh,
Yeah, that went about as well as you would expect.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I read his book. The guy acted like he believed it in his book. Now, obviously, it didn't play out, and he was very bitter about the whole thing when it was all said and done. So, yeah, he had his own account for the story behind that, but I wasn't sold by what he said.
Yeah. I think there is relevance to it. I mean, I think it really is about belief. I think we got into this last week. I talked about that Joe Dispenza guy.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah.
wrote that book on it. Let me give you my synopsis on that book. I wrote it down in here. So when somebody walks up to you and tells you that your neck is hurt and they're right,
Mm-hmm.
like you believe them. And so when they say you're healed, you believe them, right?
Yeah.
right.
Because they just like called you out and with no context.
Well, Mike Winger
Yeah.
talked. Well, we watched that when we did the live stream about Benny Hinn, where because Kim Clement was pretty compelling, but Benny Hinn's obviously a liar. But we talked about how the peer pressure, when they do that knocking you over in the spirit thing, if you don't fall over, there's something wrong with you. And so there
Yeah.
are people that'll pretend like they're healed.
Well, sure.
You
Yeah,
know.
but then other people believe it because they pretended,
Yeah.
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 So it's kind of, I guess it could work, but it's based off false pretenses, which is gross.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I
So-
don't.
Here's what I wrote down about that book.
Okay.
If I understood Joe Dispenza correctly, stem cells are the fool cards. You know what like a fool card is? Okay, let's keep going. So the fool cards of the body in that they can adapt to an ever-changing environment. Like the fool, it is willing to learn and adapt to its environment because it has no ego and can judge itself without shame. It's a constant like truth. Once a stem cell recognizes its environment and adapts accordingly, it starts to influence other cells to change for the better as well. Then growth and healing can happen in the environment. It's alchemy. So that was kind of word salad. But so like
I like salad.
it's like just like I said, if somebody walks up to you, bro, and they tell you what's wrong with you, you're gonna believe them.
Yeah.
And so just like that placebo effect is just so powerful when somebody can do that. And so like, but the only real way, like the way Jesus did it, like he was constantly in prayer. Like he was constantly communicating with God, so he had God's will, right? And so I
Right.
think that's what this what was his name?
Dan Muller.
Dan Muller. So that's I think he's what he's getting at. I don't know if he's full of shit or not, but like if you're constantly in prayer with God and you're doing his will, God's gonna tell you if somebody's neck's messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in turn, when you tell them their neck's messed up, you're gonna be like, oh damn.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So I don't know. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. He's a. I like listening to him because I did a little research into him and watched several of his stuff, and he preaches the same message almost every time that I've seen. And I picked. I went as far back as YouTube would go and watched like one of his first videos, and then watched a new updated video, and they're both the same. It's the same guy for like
Yeah.
24 years. He's been teaching, and so a lot of people will change how they teach on. They'll change their mind or whatever, or anyways. And then another one is Todd White, who Dan Moeller basically trained more or less. And Todd White has some good stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got some healing videos of his own. And looking at the guy, you wouldn't first glance you'd be like, I'm gonna stay away from him. He's one of those guys.
Dreadlocks are a miracle unto themselves.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
So he's got stories. Like when he first started out, he was, radically saved, and he would walk up to random people in Walmart in wheelchairs, and this little old lady, he walked up to her when he was first learning about this healing stuff. He was like, "Hey, can I pray for you?" And she was like, "You can if you want to." And so he prayed just a simple prayer, "Dear Lord, I ask for you to heal this woman in Jesus' name," and it wasn't something crazy. And she was like, "Well, thanks for trying," and kept going. And he said it didn't work for like 6 months. He didn't see a single person healed, and he kept going and kept trying. And then all of a sudden, one random person that he tried it on, which I don't remember the full story on that, it worked. It finally worked. And he said after that, he's been on fire, and he receives the word from God, hey, go to wherever gas station somewhere and pray for this person behind the counter. And he's got a lot of stories as well, similar.
Yeah. That's wild.
And,
Well, I mean, I certainly think it's possible. I mean, I'm sure, God will do whatever he wants in his own time. I certainly think it's possible to heal. Who knows? Maybe Oral Roberts did heal some people at some point in time, but, maybe people get corrupt later on. Maybe some people start out legitimate and lose their way or something like that. Or, I mean, who knows? I don't know about it.
yeah.
I just figured, the Almighty wants me to do it. He'll tell me, and I guess I have a hard time imagining it's something you have to practice towards. You know what I mean? It's like practice makes perfect. Or you got to pray on some people, and then it doesn't work, and then one day it will. I am a little skeptical about that. It seems like...
Yeah, that's so weird. It's like he was trying too hard or something.
Well, it's just,
He teaches that it's about your faith. Do you believe when you walk up to a person, is God going to heal them? Well, if you start questioning whether or not he's going to heal them, that's you not really having the full faith and power of God.
I just
And it's just not going to work. So if you walk up to them, 100% believer, 100% faith, this is going to work. it's gonna work.
Well, how do you know when
And-
you have 100% faith?
Exactly.
And how does that
That's-
mesh with faith like a mustard seed?
That's exactly where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
And definitionally, from the standpoint of what a miracle is, I mean, a miracle's breaking the rules. So why would there be a system and you got to practice it so many times, and you got to do this and you got to do that in order to get there? It don't. I feel like if there's a mechanic to healing, then definitionally it wouldn't be a miracle.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a mechanic. Oh, yeah. Well, it's placebo. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Your body has all the stuff to heal itself inside of it already, but it won't. We have connections to this world. We're grounded to this world, and Satan is the master of this world. So
Yeah.
like we have tendrils in us, like,
yeah.
so it's
if,
like,
if he can keep you in a depressive state, like, oh, I feel terrible today, and that's just every single day of your life, guess what? You're gonna feel terrible.
you saying that is you're predicting your future.
You're predicting how your day's gonna go. Yep.
But a
Yeah.
miracle should come out of the blue and then happen irregardless of. I don't.
Where'd
think
you
that's
get
the
your
right way to use
definition of
that
miracle,
word. It should happen regardless of the person's state. Like
That's
I
not
mean,
necessarily
God
true.
is so powerful. It really shouldn't be. I mean, I know Christ says your faith has made you well, and I do know that He calls on people to take acts of faith. But really, it's Him doing it, not me. Like I'm not making the miracle
I don't think
happen.
he said that.
Huh?
He said he can do nothing without his Father. He's saying he always gave credit to the Father.
He always gave credit to the Father because he was
Well,
in
he's
the
He's just
flesh.
an conduit.
I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not sure if that's relevant to what I'm talking about. But
What you mean? That's what he said.
well, I know, but what does that have to do with like whether or not like Christ said that there is a correlation with faith and healing, but at the end of the day, isn't God the one doing it? And so if
Yeah.
God is the one doing it, like I guess what I'm talking about is I'm not sure about this whole I'm still stuck on the whole practicing faith healing thing. Like that's where my brain is. I'm
Yeah,
kind of
well,
hung up on
yeah.
that, going, I'm not sure that meshes.
That phrase doesn't work, really. I mean, because it's like if you're like starting your day with the intention of healing people, like you're messed up already. You should wake up and say, I'm going to do what God's will is today, like whatever He tells me.
Yeah, like just the
And
idea
so
of practicing
if
seems
that's your
weird.
calling, cool. If you make a YouTube channel out of it and say, "Oh, I'm a healer," I don't know about that.
Well, you're not going to post the times you didn't heal, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, that's just
I
being
mean, it would
honest.
be a lot of really awkward YouTube videos
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
Just
something
seeing
happened.
Your growth journey. I don't know.
Episode 597, nothing happened again.
That's the thing about this Todd White. He actually does post a few times where nothing happened and the person walked away and
Well, there's integrity in that.
nothing happened.
I guess the reason I bring it up is it feels a little bit like testing the Almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I'm not in the whole faith healing thing, but that would just strike me as testing the Almighty.
I feel like, at least in my experience with this particular topic, it's like it never makes sense. Like whenever you're doing what God wants you to do, it never makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
is
it's
true.
because we're trained from day one. Everything against God, like we're born into darkness, and
Well, He does ask you
We
to do
find the light.
counterintuitive things to test your
Yeah.
faith.
yeah,
Well, I think like the distinguishing thing between God's will and your will is like, is it self-serving or not? Like
is
most
it
of the time,
selfless? Yeah,
yeah. It's like everything's polarity. So if like there's a good, there has to be a bad in turn. So it's like when you make it, for example, when you make a joke, like there's always a butt of the joke, right? So it's either like you or somebody else.
or
And
she.
so like, right. Yeah. It's
like
like
that's what she said.
but like there's always like a victim to the joke, I guess. And it's like, so it's like this balancing polarity thing. And so the same thing when you're doing something for someone else, it like costs you something personally,
Right.
right? And that feels backwards to us.
It's just, yeah, it's funky.
Yeah. I'm
But
gonna have
it's
to
for
look
the
into
better
that
good.
because I'm sitting here thinking about the whole. Your faith has made you well. Christ said that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't feel like I would be the one. I mean, obviously that's right because Christ said it, but how does that work? So I'm like gonna obsess over that now.
That's where I'm at. I've been trying to just pay attention and learn what I can on it, and I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on it and see
I'm not a good person
where
to
it
ask
goes.
because Oral Roberts that kind of jaded me a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that experience wasn't great. So I might have a bit of a bias in that one, which is
Well,
weird
and-
because I'm not so biased to prophecy, but with some of that faith
Yeah.
healing stuff, I've seen a little one too many of those tent revival things, and I never bought them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And growing up personally, the churches that I grew up in, they taught that faith healing was just for the apostles. Like Jesus said that directly to them, and it was just for them.
They were the secessionists. They think that the miracles stopped after
Yeah,
the
so I
time
don't-
the Bible was written. Now I don't believe that, like at
No.
all. I just feel like
So
miracles are like isolated. They're they happen in individuals' lives, and people tell. They'll tell their family, they'll tell their friends in their community and stuff, but it's not going to be something that's going to be happening consistently enough that you can record it all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of understand that maybe with prophecy, maybe, because, the whole point of a prophecy is to give it out to other people and warn the masses about something. But I
Right.
feel like healings would be, I guess, and this is probably wrong because I got no scripture to base this off of, but I feel like they would be more personal. You know what I mean? Like you would have a
Yeah.
personal experience with God. He would heal you, and then you would tell your family and people and the people that know you and know your character and know you're not prone to exaggerating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then in that
Yeah.
case, if people know who you are and you say as somebody that is known, my back was healed or, something like that, people would believe you because they know you're not prone to flights of fancy, or at least the people that really know you would be more likely to believe you. I figured it'd be more
Right.
effective that way. But what do I know? I'm talking out of my butt. So
I don't know. I kind of agree with it all. And that's why I think, like the prosperity doctrine thing, it's so backwards because it's all self-service. Like you can say, oh, it's so I can do philanthropy, but it's not. It's so you can have a Corvette. It's like,
I want a Corvette.
right.
I have no idea how to work on it.
Yeah, it's like Jesus was always like, let not your left hand know what your right hand does. It's like you shouldn't videotape this shit.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
You shouldn't.
I don't know.
Like, because that was Jesus' thing. Let not your left hand know what your right hand does.
Like, do good
Like,
things.
don't
private,
let people
yeah.
see you give to the poor. Don't let people.
When
you know.
when it comes to money and tithing and stuff, yeah, you're supposed to
Yeah.
do that. You're supposed to keep that to yourself. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You're right there.
And so, if you're making money off healing, like walking a thin line there.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know. I think back to what Paul says. Like, Paul does say that a minister should be expected to pay for their, for their stuff. Like, they gotta eat. And I always think back to people complaining about how popular the Pentecostals are, and it's like, well, they're using that money for the missions too. You might complain about Kenneth Copeland or some guy's 5 planes, but they're flying around doing ministry. Well, they're being a lot more effective than people that don't have 5 planes, And so it's like,
Are they?
they're
'Cause
reaching more people.
What's their message? What is
Well,
Kenneth Copeland's
yes, they're
message?
if they're lying, then they're spreading the darkness faster than the light is being spread because they have 5 planes. So maybe
There
it's
you
not.
go.
Maybe it's not noble to say you shouldn't have the 5 planes. So I'm not sure I buy into the whole. I don't think we should expect evangelists and preachers to be poor. Like, I'm not mad
I'm
at
just
Joyce
saying-
Meyer. I'm not mad at Joyce Meyer for having a giant house. Like, that doesn't bother me. I'm like, well, if she worked and got the nice house, that's fine. I just want to make sure that they're not, putting the money someplace. They're saying they're giving the money to missions, but keeping it. You know what I mean? Like, from my position, I'm like, as long as you're upfront about where the money's going, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying if you have money and you're like in this line of work that you're a piece of shit. But I'm saying there's a reason that Jesus and all the apostles were dead broke when they died.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
They were in this world, not of it.
I don't know. I think that kind of builds on the presupposition that there's something noble about being poor. I think.
No, it's not saying that. It's saying that God's will comes first. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you there.
And the Dan Muller and Todd White both they touch on that. They're like, we don't do this to get paid. We do this because we want to, and we feel like it's God's will for us. And
Yeah, that's commendable if it's true. I've never heard of these guys, but
I don't
yes.
know anything about them.
yeah, that's why I like them so much. Is they call themselves out as they're talking, especially Dan Muller. Like if he's talking about like money, he'd be like, I don't accept money. But people putting my videos on YouTube, I don't even know who they are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, I have no clue who's putting my
Okay.
stuff on
That's
YouTube.
that.
Oh, yeah. I like him more.
There you go.
And then he's like, he talks about he pays for his own plane tickets when he travels.
Yeah, that's. Yeah,
And-
if that's all true, that's the Lord's work right there, man.
Yeah, he's like, I've been slandered and hated on, and I honestly don't care. I teach and preach. If someone's like, hey, can you come preach at my church? He's like, yeah, we'll do it. Let's do it. And he sets up his own plane ticket and does his own stuff. And he's like, if you try and give me tithe, I don't accept it. I'll give it right back to your church.
Word. Yep, that was kind of that Catherine Coleman lady I was talking about a few weeks ago. She was like, everybody tried to give her money all the time, and she just like, it was like fluid, man. Like people
Yeah.
dump water on her, and it just rolls off, but people just kept dumping it.
Yep.
You know. I mean, I think they teach that concept in like economics classes, about how money works like water. It's like fluidity. The economy is fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But anyways, that was really all I had. It was just a couple questions. I just, like I said, I'm trying to learn.
We're
What
all
I
in
can.
agreement that we're not secessionists. I don't think anybody here is a secessionist.
what does that
or-
mean?
or
It's somebody who
traditionalist.
believes that the miracles stopped once the Bible was written.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah,
That's
I don't think any of
stupid.
us are in that camp.
It's literally a guidebook for us, so why would you say that?
So,
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
all right. Well, we'll have to do some more looking into it. Like, I'm largely ignorant on it, but yeah, that's a good one. So, Cody, you got any final thoughts?
Just to wrap up, I mean, yeah, I think we're all sons of God, sons and daughters of God, and Jesus said, "You'll do even greater things." So, keep go to your quiet closet and listen for God. Bring all thoughts into captivity and see what His will is.
Amen.
Add a qualifier. We're adopted sons, but we can argue about that later.
Yeah, whatever.
You're adopted.
Just because you don't have a big nose,
What?
huh? I don't know.
What? Huh?
Spiraling.
Okay, so who wants to sign us off?
I'll sign us off.
Do it.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you on the other side of the next podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.